So let's see what SPY and Friends brought us today, October 9th, 2023. Very nice bullish continuation from Friday bullish day. 432, 433, all this area now from support. Look left, support, support now. Resistance once again. Another bullish day. And then we are heading to close the gap at the 438. Then we will retest this yellow trend line as resistance once again. This trend line helps us to identify that we are still in lower highs. This trend line helps us to identify the lower lows, which means on the bigger picture, we are still in a bearish land, bearish sentiment. We need a weekly close above this yellow trend line, and then with high probability, we can say bulls are back. QQQ, very nice continuation also. 368 now will become the next resistance. This is also the 618 Fibonacci retracement. Downtrend bounce, 618 retracement will become a very tough resistance above it. And we are heading towards this purple trend line. And this purple trend line goes all the way back to middle of July. Since then, helps us to identify the lower highs. Only a weekly close above this purple trend line, and we can say that bulls are back. Dow Jones, also continuation, bullish continuation. Now let's see 338 and then 340 to the upside, which is also the 618 retracement from this downtrend. IWM holding above this very important area of support. Here it was support, support over here, and now once again holding as support. Let's extend it to the right, so we will see it in the future. As long as we are above this box, above this red zone, we are good, but we are still in a very steep downtrend. We need a weekly close above the 180, above this gap area. And then we can say with high probability, bears are gone and bulls are back. Bitcoin overall since beginning of July is in a downtrend. This is why we have this yellow trend line, helps us to identify high, lower high, lower high. But if we zoom in, and this is why I always say, zoom out, zoom in to get a better point of view of price action. First, 28,130 is a very tough resistance. 27,300, very important area of support. It was resistance over here, resistance over here. Now, by the natural things of price action, from resistance to support, and if we zoom in to a lower time frame since middle of September, what do we have? Low, higher low, and for now, higher low and higher highs, which means on a lower time frame, Bitcoin is making all the efforts to go back up and break the higher time frame downtrend, but we need a weekly close above the 29K to validate that bulls of Bitcoin are here. Ethereum, relative weakness to the Bitcoin, breaking below and staying below the 1600s. Now 1540 needs to hold, otherwise we are heading back, retesting this purple trend line. Overall, Ethereum moving sideways since beginning of August, and since April we are in a downtrend. KRE, no need to be a rocket scientist. We can see trend lines shows us the way. The way now, for now, is south until proven otherwise. Oil, if you follow me on Twitter and you saw previous videos, you know this red box, and we have talked about this red box. It was a very tough resistance, broke above beginning of September, now head back, retesting this area as support, now bouncing back up. But we have a gap over here. This gap, more than 99% chance will get filled because there are no gaps in the futures, light crude oil futures. SOXX moving sideways, 470 area, 465 area, all this area is a very important area of support. 480 area, as you can see, very tough resistance. Inside day, which is pretty good, which means bulls are hanging on. Now let's see continuation above the 480 towards this yellow trend line to the upside, but follow the trend. And for now, since the peak of August, we are in a downtrend. Apple, very nice continuation in the past few days. Looks like bulls of Apple wants to close this gap at the 181.70, the 181.47 to be accurate. Let's make it like this so we will know the exact price. 181.47, and then touching and retesting this upper yellow trend line as resistance. This trend line to the upside shows us that on the higher time frame, zoom out, we are still in a downtrend. Only a weekly close above this area, above this yellow trend line, and we can say with high probability, bulls are back. Microsoft, also very nice continuation, breaking above the 618 Fibonacci retracement, which is the 328 area. Support, resistance, support. Now broke above, needs to hold above it in the next few days, and then we can say we are heading towards the 340 area. Netflix, nicely bounced off the purple trend line, and this is why we use trend lines and Fibonacci. If you saw previous videos, you know all these levels, you know all these trend lines, and now 386, still very tough resistance area. Let's see continuation towards the 400, and 386 needs to hold as support. Shopify, still moving sideways, but on the positive side, 51 area is not giving up. I want to see continuation above the 54.25. Another 2 days above this area, the 54.25, 54.30 if you want. And then we are heading to close this gap. At first, we will close this gap at the 46. If we zoom out, we can see double bottom, multi-bottom scenario. If we will get a weekly close around this area, next week we are heading to close this area, and then we are heading towards the 62 and 66.80. But we are not here to predict the future. We are here to follow price. Look left. What price? Where price came from? And if you remember a few weeks back, we said that the same action we had over here to the upside, if the 62 area will fail to hold, we will get the same price action, but to the downside. This is why it's very important always to look left. By the way, you can go back a few weeks back, 2, 3, since beginning of September. Watch the market review videos since beginning of September, and we talked about it. Now, 51.30 is holding. Let's see continuation. This is why I always say look left. Try to identify where price came from, where price might be heading next. If you know in-depth candlestick analysis and you really understand price action and Fibonacci levels, you can identify with high probability where price might be heading next. Amazon holding very nice above this yellow trend line, moving sideways but holding above this yellow trend line, above the 123, 124 area. We need Amazon bulls to get back in business and close above the 131 area, at least in the next few days. And then we are heading towards this gap at the 135. Tesla, inside day, very healthy after this bounce. Now we need continuation towards this red trend line. This red trend line will become a very tough resistance because it was a resistance over here, and all this area in the middle of September, it was a very tough resistance. A weekly close above this red trend line, and we are heading to close the gap at the 290. Nvidia inside candle for those who don't understand the significance of inside candles represent indecision in the market. And if the market cannot decide, we surely cannot decide what to do. We need to wait for the market to show us the way. And by following the trend lines, following Fibonacci, looking left, we can, with high probability, know where price might be heading next. We had a downtrend bounce towards the 50% area. Now, we have an inside candle, which means bulls are hanging on this area as support, all this area, the 441, 451, together with this trend line is a very important area of support. Bulls hang on. Now let's see continuation towards the 462. Above it, we are heading towards the 478. AMD, same as Nvidia, inside candle, which means bears did not succeed to take back control of AMD. Red trend line, we don't even need Fibonacci. This trend line held as a very tough resistance since the peak of June. Resistance all the way to last Friday. Broke above. Now, today we got inside candle hanging above this red trend line. Now let's see bulls continuation towards this white trend line. This white trend line will become resistance because it was a very important area of support since October of 2022. As you can see, all this area of support until it broke middle of September. Now it will become a very tough resistance, but it will become resistance for higher highs. And this is your next broadening formation. If you don't know what is broadening formation, please check the Fibonacci Academy playlist. We have 25 videos on how to become a better trader on the technical side and on the psychology behind trading. We talk about broadening formation. Also, we talk about broadening formation and the significance of broadening formations and why broadening formations are the true formation and the only formation that price moves in. Meta broke above this yellow trend line and now continuation towards the 396, but first we need to retest the 314 area as our support and then next leg up towards the 326. Overall, Meta and Google very strong relative strength to the rest of the market. 138 resistance. Now once again resistance. Look left where price came from. Try to identify and try to train your eyes to look left why price is where it is now. 138, 139, all this area, very tough resistance. Now, resistance. We might get some kind of a pullback to the 136, but overall, Google, very nice uptrend. Slight pullback during end of September, but since then gave everything back. Now let's see continuation above the 138 towards this white trend line and the 142. Follow price, use trend lines, Fibonacci levels to manage your risk and as your GPS for future price actions. If you want to learn more, check the links in the description below.